Hello and welcome to another Dark Tide video. Today I'll be showing you my best veteran build, and this will be the second to last video in my series covering the best builds I have for each class. Next will be Arbites, and there are a couple things that'll overlap with this video in Arbites in terms of how to best use these classes. And to start us off, I have the Power Sword as our melee. Now you want to dump mobility because you don't really want to mess with the damage of this weapon in any way, which cleave damage, finesse, cleave targets, and damage will definitely do if you mess with it. So even though this is already a slow weapon, I'd still recommend dumping mobility. For perks, Carapace, because you're going to be using this weapon for crushers when you don't have the crack grenades, and flak armored enemies for basically most enemies, because you're also going to be horde clearing with this weapon. For blessings, Power Cycler, pretty self-explanatory, and Brutal Momentum. Now Brutal Momentum, great blessing, gives you more weak spot damage, but also when you cleave through one enemy or you headshot one enemy, you're able to kill 3 more before damage fall off, damage fall off happens with this weapon, allowing you to cut through a bunch of enemies. It's like a butter knife, hot butter knife through butter. And for our secondary weapon, you want to use the plasma gun, easily veteran's best ranged weapon. Maybe the bolter's better if you know how to build it, but plasma gun's for sure like the most consistent. Now you want to dump charge rate because you're not really going to be charging, you're going to be light spamming with this. For perks, you have a little bit of freedom. I'd choose elite enemies. You could do specialists, or like unarmored enemies for gunners to one-shot them more consistently, but I just choose elites. And flak armored because most ranged enemies are flak. Now you want to do rising heat for that strength, and blaze away. With these two combined, when you basically light spam, it does more and more damage every subsequent hit, which is helpful when you're switching between targets and when you're fighting Ogryns. You can also switch out elites for unyielding if you want to do more boss damage with this. But as I'll show you, there's another better way to do a boss damage with the crack grenades, which isn't what you think. Now for blessings, it's pretty standard. More toughness, combat ability regen, gunners, and toughness. Now you could do like I usually do max stamina because, and also, block efficiency on at least one of them, because with this weapon, every time you use the power sword and you energize it, what happens is during that animation, you count as blocking, and if you get staggered out of that animation, it really can lead you to getting pounded on by a bunch of enemies, and especially when there's very short window of time when you can use the power sword, you really don't want to be staggered while you're energizing it. So for that reason, I chose max stamina, but you could do all 3 toughness if you know what you're doing and you don't get into, sticky situations that often. But this will give you a little bit of wiggle room if you're not necessarily feeling going hardcore, I guess. Now, before we get into talents, there's something you might need for this build. Now, if you're on console, you can't use mods, but if you're on PC, a mod I'd highly recommend is using Dog Whistle. Beyond the fact that it's just really nice when when it's low visibility, like nighttime or gas, or I don't know, fucking there's a bunch of enemies and you don't know which one's an elite. Um, you can use dog whistle to auto ping things, and you can also, if you go into whistle settings and then go to focus target settings, they nerfed it to where focus target no longer stacks to 8. Um, so it goes down to 6. So you want it to double check that you're doing max target 6. And focus target retargeting. Uh, you want this on. You also want to choose veteran for the class selection. I think by default it is arbitrator because this is an arbitrator mod, which is the overlap that I was talking about in the beginning. And you want to do auto target, and you can personalize what enemies you want to target. I'd recommend taking off like, what is it, like Demon House, because it's not, or like the captains, which I haven't done right here, but I'd recommend taking off the captains because you won't be able to effectively use focus target on the captains because of their shield and the way it works, which is really complicated, but just trust me, take that off so you don't waste focus target on the captains. But other than that, let's get into the talents. Now, for our toughness regen, I do Out for Blood because this also works for melee. It's really helpful, especially when you're killing a bunch of enemies at once with one swing with the power sword. I think it's helpful. And also you get a bunch of toughness when you're shooting enemies that aren't necessarily elites, which is also very helpful when you're in the back. Of course, you want confirmed kill. That's your main way of generating toughness. Long shot, just more damage. And then you want to do crack grenade. Now you could do shredder frag grenades, but I think crack grenades, with combination with focus target, really helps with boss damage and also dealing with crushers, obviously. But if you're not really looking for boss damage, you could do, shredder frag grenades, and you don't have to change a thing really, because Grenade Tinker is really nice. And then you want superiority complex, Iron Will, obviously, and Trench Fighter Drill for the attack speed, because you're mostly going to be light attacking with this weapon. And superiority just more damage, which you really need. Field Improv. Usually with my other builds, I do Serrated Blade, but because you're using the power sword, I don't really see the reason you need Serrated Blade because everything's going to die already. Then Survivalist, self-explanatory. It's just like infinite ammo, especially with this weapon. It's not like when you have like a little bit of ammo, it still does a full amount of damage. So you basically have infinite ammo with the plasma gun. Grenade Tinkerer, so you can one-shot crushers and do more damage to bosses. Demolition Stockpile, self-explanatory. Voice of Command with Duty and Honor. That's the meta, really. You could, if you wanted to, take away Redirect Fire and put it into only in Death Does Duty End, because they buffed it, which it is pretty good, but I just like having more damage. I feel like when you're getting to those higher difficulties, you're gonna really want to have more damage to deal, because that's just more helpful. Or yeah, more helpful. And you want to come down to the left, Precision Strike for that extra damage, and Fully Loaded for the more ammo. It's pretty standard. And then you come over to the right, you want Reciprocity, so you get just free critical chance, and this also gives you more finesse, so more damage on your power sword, as if you need any more. Demolition Team. This is really helpful when you're like dealing with waves of crushers and you throw like your 3 grenades and they kill like a bunch of elites, so you get it back. There's a good chance you'll get it back, like at least one back. And then Tactical Awareness for the cooldown. because they nerfed voice of command. Then you come down here to the middle. You could choose competitive urge, but I think the toughness is a lot more helpful. And bring it down for the monstrosity and Ogryn damage. And focus target, I choose focus fire and redirect fire. Now, if you're on console, how I would do this is I'd take this away, do this, and then come over to the right. If you're on console and you can't really make use out of focus target as well as if you had dog whistle. Just having 25% clip size is really nice, and with weapon specialist, it guarantees a critical hit after you kill a few enemies with your sword. And also, since you're doing light attacks, when you swap to your sword, it'll like fire faster, which you have to get used to the tempo, but because it swings faster, you get pumping out more damage. But the best way to build it is like this, and I'll show you why. Now, there's a couple things you need to know with this build. First is with the power sword. Let's say you have a crusher. Hold on, let me get my stacks up. And then you ping, and then you power up, poke, and overhead. You do this by push attacking and light attacking after the push attack, which is the push attack is the poke, and then the follow up is the overhead. Now, for the plasma gun, the I think best tip you can get for this is, I mean, you could choose, this is kind of niche, and if you really want to, you can change up the talents a little bit to give you more reload speed, because that's the only real downside of this weapon is after you shoot, it takes forever to reload, and that can really mess you up when you need to get ranged enemies, because that's going to be your job. But the best way to do it is when you reload, you sprint. Hold on. When you reload, you sprint, and then when it comes in, you sprint, and you save a bunch of time. You can probably compare it if you like time my video or whatever, or you can look it up, plasma gun animation cancel, and you can see how much faster it is. But it really helps when you really need to reload, when you're like on low ammo. Obviously all guns need to reload. And also I wanted to show you the last thing. When you have a boss and you have at least one crack grenade and you ping and you use your focus target, look how much damage it does. With 3 crack grenades, you can bring down an orc level monstrosity down to half health. And the nice thing about focus target is it doesn't just buff your damage, it buffs the damage of your entire team. So let's say you have you're focusing him, right? Focus target, you're focusing him with your teammates. They'll also get I think it's a 25% damage increase, which basically compounds. You have 3 other teammates, so you get quick math, 100% extra damage on the boss, which is really helpful. And again, this is my second to last build. I'll do Arbites next, but this has been the vet build. Thank you for watching.